Now here's my first issue with the map. I love this objective. You're fighting in an open field, there's fire, it's so cinematic and cool. But why couldn't it have been as long, if not longer, than the beginning of Rudhelm or Lionspire? I think there was a lot of wasted potential there because that could have been a significant part of the map that I thought was very fun. It just goes by really within minutes, even 2 minutes at times. The Messer is just so devastating. I've been having a lot of fun with using it again. I'm trying not to care so much about what other people think of weapons or how I'm playing, and just using what I enjoy. Longsword's always been number one, but Messer just really hits different. And the Wraithblade skin that they made, that just helps matters even more. I've been really loving it again. After so many times playing this map, I still don't know exactly where the bandage crates are, unless I'm going to run all the way back to the spawn, which I don't have time for that. Who has time for that? And a good friend I have, Aragi Karan, the best pub stomper in the entire game. He's in the Discord, by the way, if you'd like to join that, it's in the pinned comment. He has pointed out that there's actually bandage carts that are out of bounds for the map, where you're in a deserting zone. So that leads us to believe that they probably were on a little bit of a crunch maybe, and didn't put as much time as they should into this map. Again, I'll give my thoughts on the map as a whole a bit later. But now we're going to the bridge part, and as you probably guessed, this is the part that really makes the map, honestly, flat out miserable at times. There is just nowhere to maneuver at all. I mean, I can back up a little bit, but if you're trying to push that ram, where am I supposed to go? I always try and hug the right side of the ram just because I don't want to get hit by the ballista. You guys know that drives me crazy. But team damage is inevitable, and I don't understand how you're supposed to survive this. When the map first came out and I was blinded by just how cool it looked, I thought that this was just a meat grinder and it was like realistic or something, and that it was kind of immersive being stuck. Like, think about Battle of the Bastards, Jon Snow is gasping for air, that kind of thing, right? And I stand by, that's how it felt at first, but eventually when you play the map enough, it gets really tiring. There's not really much place to go, but I still have a bandage, so I back up, but you'll never guess what happens next. Now again, as we get back, both doing team damage and getting team damage is inevitable. All I feel like I can do is just push up and try and get behind them, because I hate hitting my teammates even though I do it non-stop. I do have positive things to say about this map, don't get me wrong, but we're going to talk about each part as we go along with our usual tips. But right now it's all about these battering ram stages, and they are just absolutely miserable. Now here I get behind them, and I think they're so surprised anyone was able to even move around on the bridge enough that they don't attack me. And if you check the screen, that's a nice monster kill. Messer is just capable of so much damage, as I've said. But we get downed by a teammate, and can you really blame him? I don't really get mad at teammates for team damage in general, but in a case like this, what is he supposed to do? Battered and bloody, we're gonna back up, but you'll never guess what happens next. Yeah, that's the only thing that's frustrating about the bridge, is the moving around in archers. Otherwise, just stuff like getting farmed by ballistas on the spawn back. As you guys know me, I absolutely love siege equipment. Now, we're going to lead a covert operation with some like-minded people, probably also sick of this ballista. Fueled by hatred and frustration, we're trying to get up there still. Teammates are doing well supporting us, and we did back up and get a heal a second ago. But now they're distracted, and I'm going to get behind them. Nice little flank here, nice little maneuvering through the crowds. Most of my teammates have had enough fighting. They're going to go on their merry way back to the objective, but we do get a little bit more backup here. They're all in default skins though, so I'm not expecting much from them, but I commend their spirit and heart for going in behind enemy lines with me, but we don't end up making it to that ballista. After a walk back, we're right back in the action, but we get hit a few times. There's not much thing to do, so we're going to back up, and at this point, you can guess what happens next. A lot of you do follow for tips, so let me give you one here. Is on the Trayan Bridge, the number one thing you want to do is telepathically know when an axe is being thrown at your head. I don't do that for a second, and I pay the price. Sometimes I think about doing Twitch, because a good thing that would make this translate to that platform is if you heard how much I raged at this right here, I would be more viral than Mr. Beast if you heard everything I said at this point. That stretch of time made me wonder why I ever started playing video games in the first place. If they were ever even worth starting to play, not even just Chivalry 2, because I was at my wit's end, and I still wanted to win the gate because I didn't go through all of that for nothing. I used to rage quit a lot, and I'm really trying to work on it because people were getting pretty annoyed in YouTube comments pointing out I was in your game and you left early because you got off to a bad start. After that absolutely brutal stretch, I'm hoping you guys can cut me some slack. That whole stretch does kind of encapsulate how bad the bridge can be. It's just absolutely just awful. There's really no excuse for them to make it so small, and the ballista is a little annoying how when you spawn you can get killed so easily. Now, this part is sensational. You're fighting through a flaming city and going building to building, combat. It's awesome. But sometimes after I do the map before this and I know Trayan is coming, I leave because the bridge is just so annoying and the worst objective in the game that if it goes on too long like that one did to the last 15 seconds or so, it ruins the entire experience because it can take up half of the time you're on this map. It's also funny looking back because we did play very well. The final stats were great at the end of the game, but it doesn't even tell the whole story because I barely got to actually play with how brutal that was. And I do think it's funny because if you use the Templar armor or some kind of flashy thing, that just gets you so targeted by ranged weapons. It's pretty funny. I don't understand why people have like default armor so they don't get targeted if they're a high level. Because one, I think that makes you come off as pretty full of yourself, and two, cosmetics are part of what makes this fun. I do like standing out, but when things like that happen, especially the ballista at the spawn, as I kept saying, that ballista is going to see you first among all those people, and if you have flashy giant horns on your helmet, you're probably going to get shot. I'm turning away from my drag way too soon, and it's telegraphing that's what I'm doing, so that's why he's holding block. He definitely sees that coming. This is cramped, but I don't mind it because it's fighting building to building, close quarters, and it's not like you're all in one. You can move around and be in the streets, you can be in the different buildings. I would like to see them do this now that Chivalry 3 has been announced in future games where it's more like open cities and open areas. Definitely something I'd like to see them experiment with more. 3 minutes seems like plenty of time to get in there. The Mason engineers are defending it like their real-life families live in Trayan Citadel. But we do want to get into the roleplay ourselves, so we're going to burn our team alive with fire pots and fit that whole fiery, flaming Citadel aesthetic. Now, when VIP vs. VIP as the final objective was announced, we were all excited, and I gotta say, they nailed it, and this is another sensational objective. So Trayan really does come out as a tale of two halves. You have the first part where the first objective is good, but it doesn't last very long, and then you have the two heat grinder, slog fest, terrible, disgusting ram phases. Then you have a second half of the map, which is just as good as it gets, really. It's maybe the best second half of the map. I would have liked that part through the city and this to be a little longer maybe, but overall that's kind of how the map goes. I mean, there's really no excuse for that first half with the bridge just being so thin and taking so much time to push, and you lose there a lot. And I would have liked to see that first stage have a lot more fighting within it, but so more than any other map, I think this one really does depend on who's in the lobby, as I said earlier, and how things play out with the balance, because if you're stuck pushing that ram the whole time, it really doesn't get any worse. And a lot of the times, it doesn't even get this far because the stage before this just takes so long. And I do think that first stage should have a longer period of time where you're just fighting in the battlefield. I think this could have been maybe the best map of all time for the slasher genre, but overall I think it grades out to good, above average, with a chance for things to really just be miserable. That's the word that I keep using because that's how it feels. We're fighting for our life to try and get Malric. Our VIP is very aggressive, which you like to see. I do enjoy when they're played that way. I feel like that's how they meant for this to play out, instead of just hiding each guy until the teammates do all the work. We're actually staying alive a decent amount of time on here at the top with all the chaos going on. And we actually did end up playing very well, too. That wasn't really the story of this one. It was mostly just a very long rant about the bridge. But in the end, the teams played well, but we didn't get it done. Now, I am going to have the audio enhanced videos in a playlist to the top left or right, whichever. If you guys do want to check that out and let me know what you think and if it's worthwhile to continue to do it, I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.